Hey everybody, Texas Stroker Airlines Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars.com. It is Columbus Day. I finally got some free time out here in the shop. I've got some gaskets setting up. Needless to say, it is time for KC Tool Haul number 20, if I'm not mistaken. And tool of the day is the main reason for this purchase. We're going to save that one till the very end, but let's get started. As you should know, we have got the KC Tool bit of thanks checklist on the Lone Star Mopars forum. I've got it linked down below. Sadly, we've got another duplicate. This one right here, number 23 of 24. The good news is this is a power bit. It's a number 2, so we can make quite a bit of use of it. But it has been a drought. I can't think of the last time that we actually got one that we actually needed. Seems to be the same couple of bits just over and over and over again. Also, before we get started here jumping in, I do want to say the glove is here because my thumb still trying to kind of recover. I have no feeling from where the fracture was up. Looking at this is probably much more pleasant than it would be to look at the thumb, the stitches, and the thumbnail, which is somehow still there. Not trying to take away from anything we take a look at, but it's kind of what I have to do. So I have switched from the Milwaukee to these impacts. This actually provides pretty good support. I think maybe even better than the splint, which is kind of concerning. But nonetheless, let's just jump right into it here. And we're going to get started, if I can find it, with an item that I was kind of excited about and then sort of disappointed with when it came in. It came from Stahlwille, which you may not think of that being the case. The part number ST77460001. So that's 3 zeros there. Or their part number 13110. But this set us back all of $9.68, and this is a steel ruler. What I liked about it is that it was metric and inch. I thought it would come in handy when we were like comparing drivers and tools and things of that sort. The thing I don't like about it, and you're probably thinking, well, hey, how do you know you don't like it? You haven't even opened it. Well, the back side, we've got some Stahlwille branding, but look at this. Like, it's flexible. Now, that will have advantages in certain situations, but what I was thinking it would be along the lines of is like Starrett, Mitutoyo, and, you know, things that I'm accustomed to having. And this rusty monkey here is a Starrett. It's just 6-inch. I thought the 12-inch, and then of course having the metric system handy would be nice. This is just broken down 8ths, 16ths, 32nds, 64ths. Hardcore, old school Americana right there. Fear not, it will clean up just fine with steel wool. For some reason, that's like one of the first things to always flash rust, but we've had that for a very, very long time, so it's kind of understandable. But I suppose we should open this thing, and that's always awkward these days. I'll tell you, you don't realize what your dominant hand's thumb does for you until it's not there to do it. So, let's see if we can free this thing. This is one of those situations where the flexibility will be nice. Again, timestamps. If you have zero interest in this ruler, or you have it, or you don't want to know about it, I've got timestamps to each and every single product that we bring in here. You're welcome to skip ahead. You're welcome to spoil the video. You're welcome to just have it all be a surprise for you. So I guess what we need to do is zoom in. Now there are, like I said, a couple of good things to this, but right there at the beginning, that's of particular interest to me, the millimeters, because again, I didn't have anything in that scale. I was also told that the nerves in my thumb grow back at 1 millimeter a day. And there's a lot of millimeters between the fracture point and the tip of my thumb where I'm hoping that they eventually come back to. So I can sort of keep tabs on that. But again, mainly, if I'm coming in and we're going to check, you know, like the shaft length on a driver or the length of a wrench or something, I thought this would sort of be convenient to have both scales. It is made in Germany. And we're going to come over here. You can see it is 12 inches or about 30 millimeters. Now, flipping it over, that's literally all we've got. There's no dual scale, nothing. Just a Stahlwille logo and their part number 13110. So, comparing these side by side, now this one, that's what, probably like 3/5 the overall you know, thickness there, so that could come in handy. The flexibility might be nice, but it's just not what I expected. I expected something like this. When I hear steel rule, I think of something solid, something stiff, something dependable and accurate. Not to say that this isn't, but it's just I wasn't expecting the wave, if you will. And, bottom line though, I will try to use this thing. I'll see what I think of it, and we'll just kind of keep it in stride. It might come in handy, you know, if nothing else, for like picture purposes, when I take stuff, you know, for the articles or something that we're going to throw together. But again, $9.68 is what that set us back. And I guess while I don't know why, you know, like I was messing with the car for like 40 minutes and I never had a single text message. Then we start a video up and it's like the world is falling apart or something. That one I kind of want to save, so let's come in here. Heyco. I have been pretty impressed with what I brought in from Heyco. And this is one of those things where I was at a certain threshold and I didn't quite have free freight. And I can either choose to pay for freight, or I can add a couple of more tools and get free freight. And I'm of the mindset, go ahead and add tools and get the free freight. So, this little gem sent me back $7.98, and the part number, as you can see here, is going to be HY02. There we go. 50300, as you can read there. This is a T-handle for quarter drive sockets. Now, you're thinking, good Lord, what is going on? T-handle. That's what we have here. This is nothing fancy. It slides fairly well. There's a little bit of hiccup, almost like on the font. Good Lord. I don't know if you can hear this or not, but it does not glide smoothly. And again, it's almost like there's a spring or just the font in there kind of keeping it in place. But this is where the right thumb would be really, really nice. But what I want to do is kind of zoom in here so you can kind of see the finer things. And right there, we have got, ow, that hurt. Yeah, part number, if it'll come back on us, possibly. 25-03 Heyco, Germany, and then it's chrome vanadium. So there is a detent ball on the, of course, portion for our socket, but then also here at this end and mirrored on this end. And what does that do? Well, that keeps us from sliding off the rail, where that is advantageous. Now, there doesn't seem to be a way to press that down enough to get it free. I grabbed a Vera socket, 1/2-inch drive. We're just going to come in, try to line that sucker up, see how tight of a fit we get. And now keep in mind, you would typically have like an extension with this, so it's just a freak deal. But decent play. I'd say that's about average, what you would expect in most cases, particularly mixing brands. But what that is going to allow us to do is come in and quickly articulate, spin things about. And like I said, this was kind of just, hey, do I want this or do I want to pay freight? And the answer was, let's go with more tools and get the free freight. So nothing fancy, again, just something I thought we would add to our arsenal there. And similarly, that is where we are with our next product, which is also from Heyco, and this is kind of just of the same mindset. It ties in with our quarter drive. This is going to be a spinner handle. Now, true story here and sort of a follow-up for you. This is the first spinner handle I brought in. And outside of like nut drivers, I'd never use a spinner handle. And I am very glad that I bought this thing. This is from Stahlwille. I think it's around 19-ish. You can usually catch it on sale a little less than that. It's got the quick release lock. I have used the crud out of this thing. It's currently set up with an 8mm because there's a ton of tiny, tiny little stupid fasteners on the late model Challenger over there. And I love it. It's coming super handy. I kind of wish it was done up more like the 3K driver with the soft pads and everything. But needless to say, that has been a tool that I was glad to purchase, and that has kind of made me come to appreciate a spinner handle. So that's what we have here from Heyco, and the big selling point on this one, not gonna lie, I don't know that I'll find one I like better than the Stahlwille, but just the translucent green, the fact that it's made, you know, in Ireland or Germany. They've got the factory in Ireland. It's got the green. It's translucent. It's acetate handle. I just kind of thought it was kind of cool. So price again, $844. This one's 155mm long, which is an interesting size. 0250-800 is our part number. Faded label. I don't know if they're running out of ink or if it's been sitting around a while. But there it is. Now, I did feel of this the other night when I didn't have gloves on. It's a little undersized for my liking, but the bottom line is that's just kind of a beautiful tool. It's very, very similar to what I grew up with, what I always saw people using just as acetate handled everything, it seemed at the time. And doesn't have a quick release or anything, but I was excited to bring this in. I figured if I hated it, I could throw it in a box and have it with quarter drive sockets. And conveniently, a lot of the advent calendars this year kind of going that route too. But I will take this same Vera socket, which you would think it would have the same fitment as that T-handle drive we just brought in. Very stubborn to go on. I would say might be slightly better. I mean, that's kind of the slop I've come to expect when you mix brands. Nothing major. It's going to get the job done just fine. And the main thing is, if we've got a long bolt, long stud, whatever we're working on, before we torque it down, I can use this and spin it down so much faster than I can just having to rely on a ratchet or a torque wrench or whatever. And so I kind of like this. Again, my biggest complaint, which is hard with the glove on, but imagine that I was left-handed, it's very, very small. I feel like this would be ideal, you know, if I was like 8 to 12 maybe, or for anyone with small hands. But for me, I've kind of grown accustomed. I like the soft finish. I like the big bulbed handles, if you will, and this just doesn't really provide much more. Now granted, you don't need a lot of torque or leverage with quarter drive. That might be part of the design reasoning, but just for comfort's sake and ergonomics, I would prefer something with a little bit more meat to it, you know, just even out, you know, that much farther. As a bulb, it would be a nice treat for me. But again, basically what I was able to do with that, we're looking at $8.44 and $7.98, so essentially $16 between those two tools. That got me free freight, and that makes me happy. So moving on, we have one more item here before the tool of the day. This is something that's been on my list for a long time. I just always kind of seem to forget to add it on, and the reason for that is because it's not really a pressing need. But what this is, it is from Wiha. It is their part number 32146. If you know what that is, I kind of feel bad for you, because you must burn through a lot of them. But this is an insulated number 2 Phillips driver. It set me back $14.82, and you're thinking, wait, didn't you get like a really good deal on a 7-piece set of these a while back? The answer is absolutely yes. The catch is, this is different. This is their SlimLine. It's going to be, see where that contours down? We go from this thick, and then it's kind of getting shapely, like an hourglass, and we just streamline down to the tip. That will come in very handy for tight recesses, particularly on fuse blocks. I know a lot of people, it would be handy like if you do a lot of terminals and stuff. But right here on the rack, one of the racks anyway, I've got my insulated Wiha drivers, which we can very quickly do a rough comparison. Might be a video on this in the not too distant future, but I think you can easily tell what we're dealing with here. So as I hold this up for you, this is standard on the bottom, this is SlimLine on the top. You can kind of make clear the differences between these two. It's not major. It's not like it's just a radical change, but it is enough to be significant. And like I said, this was just sort of brought in. We'll probably do a comparison between these two later, and I kind of think I'm going to need it for a terminal that I've got to work with. So that'll be a nice touch. Now, the real reason for this order was the tool of the day. I'll give you a hint. Standard price on the tool of the day, $43.97, and that's probably not going to tell you anything, but this is a tool that I had wanted since I first discovered KC Tool. It and this funky pair of Gador pliers. That kind of gives you another hint right there. But it was just something about them. They looked quirky, they looked unusual, and in my head I imagined usages for them. And I kind of waited patiently, you know, like I do with a lot of this stuff, just to wait and see if I can ever catch it on some sort of a Black Friday, Father's Day, blowout, clearance, or tool of the day sale. And persistence paid off. I was able to pick this up for way cheaper than it would usually retail. And it is from NWS, since you knew it was pliers. It is going to be their part number 1096-49-200. 8-inch ergonomic, high leverage, combination pliers, matte chromium, soft grip, and tethered. Now obviously the tether isn't included, but it's certainly ready for it. And interestingly, you know, enough, typically with KC Tool you either get something like a retail pack or something along these lines, just a sealed Ziploc with a printed label. This just kind of came like this, and it is in a bag I'm going to cover that up a little bit. It says made in Germany, and it's open on that side. I didn't do that. That's just how it was delivered. And we're going to drop them out here. And the funniest thing about this is, as much as I wanted these, there's like a huge feature that I didn't know was a feature. I'd already ordered them. Again, I typically, see this stuff like a little after midnight, place my order. That's why sometimes I can catch it in stock. But then I typically buy something that's out of stock, so it doesn't ship anyway. But I can usually catch the tool of the day when it's in stock, as opposed to like 7 p.m. the next night, when you're home from work and it's already sold out, which if it ever happens to you, they do honor the price. It does typically come in fairly quickly, so you've got that going for you. And it's honestly always a good enough deal that you're almost better off purchasing it and waiting than, just holding out or paying full price for it later. I think on tool of the day, I think this was around like 24, 28, something like that. Don't hold me to it, but it was somewhere in that range. But when I was going through the social media feeds the next day, I saw their little video on this, and you see that little red clip, kind of like a trigger, like it's a gun. I had no idea that was even there. Never crossed my mind, never fazed me, never made me think about anything. And what it's going to do is save us space in the box. I mean, that is a significant decrease. We're going from a full index finger down to like, one knuckle, if you will. And it's easy to articulate it back into place. That's really all that's good for. But it's a nice touch, and it was, again, oddly enough, something, as long as I looked at these, that I didn't even know was there. So I guess that's what you get for not going down to the videos all the time. Nonetheless, what in the world am I thinking with these? Well, a couple of things. Number one, it's cool they're combination pliers, because that gives us the ability to cut wire, pivots, pins, clips, brads, whatever we're messing with. Cotter pins, which I was thinking of a situation with those in a bandsaw where this would have been handy, because I would be able to come in flush while on my backside and able to see the pin, as opposed to just coming up like that. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm sure you can think of something similar. But where I always kind of pictured these and those Gador ones that are off at an even funkier angle was just linkages. And I don't know if a lot of people mess with, throttle cables and kick down cables anymore. A lot of that's gone by the wayside, it seems. You got, drive-by-wire and, wireless crud. That's why people pay money to have aftermarket, pedal commanders and stuff. But once upon a time, if you wanted to radically change the way that your car felt, and not a lot of people were aware of this, but you come in on your torque flight and you could just play with that slack and take it up, and next thing you know, your shift points have changed. And, you can kind of increase your throttle response and things along those lines, all based on that. But the catch is, when you're down in there and you've got your carb and your filter hat and everything, and you're just trying to make a quick adjustment, it's a pain in the butt, because you got hot stuff, you got tight fits, and when you take the filter off, you're still kind of stuck there. You've got the big linkages, you got the steel rods on Chryslers, and this was always kind of where I saw this coming in handy, whether I came in from the side like this, or whether I was coming in, from the top or the bottom. It was just so radically different than anything I'm used to. And true story, in terms of pliers, what I found that I tend to use the most, outside of, like unions and things like that, where I'm jumping in with, I don't have a wrench that big typically, is needle nose. Combination pliers, I used them a ton when I was a kid. As you acquire, proper sockets and wrenches, you don't have to rely on that anymore, and you maintain the integrity of your fasteners a little better. But pliers, needle nose, that's kind of my bread and butter. It's what I would say I use the vast majority of the time, or find myself going for. And these kind of fill a strange void between like standard combination pliers and needle nose, and just the ergonomics of them. It's a deal where I have particular things in mind, but I think I'm going to try making myself use these, where I would typically just come in and say, grab my side cutters and cut off some 16 gauge wire. I'm now kind of going to reach for these for a little while and just see if I like it better, if it's easier, if it's more cumbersome, if it's something you can adjust to and it becomes second nature, if it never really becomes second nature because it's so weird. But there are situations I've thought of where this is going to be super handy, and just having that kick off at that angle and being able to then maintain a line of sight, I think is going to be advantageous to me. We'll see how they do, but again, it was the tool of the day, and this was an item that I had wanted for a really, really long time. And it was just one of those deals when I first came to KC Tool, and they have like that little feature tool section, you know. There were these, and then there were the Gador ones as you scrolled down, and there were both these funky pliers I'd never seen before. And I thought, man, what would you possibly do with those? And, you know, your mind starts running, and you come up with ideas, and next thing you know, it's like, I'm going to get a pair of those. And to my credit, I waited a really long time, in part because A, it's not super pressing, and B, I was kind of waiting for a good deal. This was my good deal. And I'm excited to give them a go. Now, what I'm curious about from you is if you have these pliers, or even a similar pair, it doesn't necessarily matter the brand, what do you use them for? Do you find yourself preferring them in certain situations? If so, what are they? If you're like me and you had purchased the tool with high hopes, did it hold up to that, or did it slack off? Did it fall down a little bit? Did you find that it doesn't deliver like you expected it to? Very, very curious how this will pan out. But in terms of function, I could see this cam eventually wearing out. It's just a piece of plastic, but it just basically catches here on the back side of the head. When we swing that down, you'll see that spring out, and the way it does that is spring steel, which as we zoom in here, you can kind of see it. We've got a catch here where we've got a tang, it bends, basically just makes one coil, wraps around, and then right here underneath the screw where we have that little plastic cam action going on, that is the other tang point, which we can actually not see, which is fine. That finish there, the strange one, that would be the screw on this flip side. So if you hate, you know, the spring loaded thing and locking it, I mean, you can just take that off, or you don't have to actually apply it. Me personally, I'm probably going to store it in the box like that. But the other thing that I always feel like mentioning with NWS pliers, if you've never had a pair, their Ergo Grip, or what do they call it? I looked at this earlier. Their soft grip. They had some like 2015 article on it. But it is really nice. One, it looks sci-fi, which some of you might just dig the aesthetics of it, but it really is pleasant in the hand, so it's got that going for it. The other thing, people always seem to knock their finish. Now, I've used dark finish, I've used this finish. The pliers from them that I've used the most, ironically, are the cheapest ones I brought in, just plain Jane combination pliers. I've had zero issues with them. They've been in the box in the truck that I take with me, that you know, friends need me, or my sister, or whatever odd job I'm doing at the time. That's the pair, and I've yet to have any issues with them, and they've been, you know, beaten up and done fences and all kinds of crud. I don't know if it's like just certain finishes people have issues with, but I have been monitoring that, so we shall see. But again, I just kind of thought these were quirky. It was always something that kind of struck my interest, and I'm excited to kind of see how they pan out. But, for all intents and purposes, we need to get a thumbnail here. So I'm going to slide the Wiha driver up. We got our, and like I said, I feel like I'm probably being a little too harsh on that Stahlwille ruler. It's just honestly a thing where it's not what I expected, and I think that's what threw me off. Got our Heyco turner, and then we've got our T-handle, which this I think will be fine. It's just undersized for my preference. This I'm not super impressed with, but it's going to be functional, and the price was decent. This was just not what I'm expecting. I do think we'll be able to use it, and I do, to their credit, like that, meaning if we ever wanted to staple it down in place, we can do that, shoot a screw through it, whatever. Of course, I've built all my tables out of metal, but if I ever do go wood, that might be something I could even just shoot down on the table, then we zoom in and have a scale ready for us. But again, just like the old school steel rule, which tons of them are Starrett, and then for whatever reason, the vast majority of like my 12-inch stuff at work is Mitutoyo. So I don't know. That's just what it is. I guess there was like a supplier switch or something before I was out there at the time. I don't know. But that's what I thought it would be, is just the German equivalent of Starrett or Mitutoyo, and it was not. But I don't know. There's probably better versions, maybe double-sided ones, maybe different scales. I might look into it in the future, but I will try to use it. I'll see what I think of it, and I do think it will have advantages and disadvantages, but it's just not what I thought it would be, essentially, is what the issue is. So we'll probably compare these. That's not a pressing issue for me, particularly with my thumb, but at some point we'll kind of go in depth. What's the difference between the SlimLine and the non-SlimLine insulated drivers? I'll give this one a go, but again, this one right here, man, if you're in the market for a quarter drive spinner handle, I love that one. That's been very, very good to me. I do wish it was sort of like this and a little bit bigger as well, and had maybe, you know, like the felt pad for grip. But it's been good to me. I can't really complain too much. But that's what we got. That is my tool haul. Let's get that thumbnail lined up. Got to get the Stahlwille guy out of the way. Got to get the Starrett one gone. There we go, right there. For my convenience, the thumbnail is done. I got to go figure out what all those text messages were. I should probably get inside, make my supper. But I'm going to go see if that gasket is set up yet, get that installed before I head in. But let me know. Very curious if you have used these. What do you think of them? If you've never used them, if you've never seen them, do they interest you? If so, why? Maybe you'll wind up like me and bring them in next time they're on sale. But like I said, we got some interesting stuff here. I've got some other stuff on the way. Of course, there was one item that was back ordered that screws everything up. So I'm patiently waiting on that. There's a couple other items I'm waiting for them to get in stock, and they've recently added some other things that we might get up to. This video is probably a good ways out. I was going to ask if you wanted to see advent calendars, but since there's a chance this might upload in December when I have it scheduled, we'll see. So, nonetheless, got some cool stuff. Let me know what you think of it all. I will catch you back here for the next KC Tool Haul. Again, new videos every Saturday. If you scroll down to the description, not only do I have it timestamped, under the timestamps, if you're particularly interested in bringing this in or you want to gift it to somebody, I will have a link straight to KC Tool where you can pick that up. Similarly, the Bit of Things checklist is there, and I've not gotten a new one in a long time. So if you would like to make a contribution, leave a comment or sign up on the forum, whatever you prefer. If you tell me one that's not listed, I will get it added to the list, and I will credit you for it at the bottom of the post. So feel free to take advantage of that opportunity. If you're also trying to kind of document them all, I've got a head start for you. And lastly, LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All three will be at Lone Star Mopars. With that said, hope you enjoyed the video. I will catch you back here next Saturday for another one. And until then, hope you have a good time doing what you do.